What's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. You know, sometimes you have the best laid plans to do something that you've thought it out, you figured out how you want to attack it and approach it and all that, and for whatever reason, things don't work the way you plan. And you have to adjust and change up what you're doing. Um, Next week is supposed to be getting down in the 20s at night, starting on Monday. And we had a window of like 4 days where it's going to be in the mid 60s. And so I've been dealing with the old flat roof here that needed to be resealed. But there's so many steps that go to it that you can't just do it all in one day. You got to power wash it. Well, you can't do it while it's wet. You can't go through and dig out the bad spots and stuff. So I ended up starting on Thursday, yesterday, and today I thought, because I'd gotten everything ready and prepped, I could go through and put the top coat on it and be done. And what happens is, out of nowhere, they weren't calling for rain. We got rain last night. And so now the roof is wet in spots, and had to go through and squeegee them and take my blower and try and blow it dry, and waiting on the sun to dry it out. So the best laid plans that I had failed, not because of something I did. They just failed because of circumstances. Which brings me to Travon Diggs. I'm probably going to make some enemies when I say this. Not that I'm in favor with the Cowboys to begin with, but here's where I find kind of funny. So there was an article today about Diggs, and they quoted Brian Brodus as some of the problems that the Cowboys have with Diggs. It's well documented that Diggs wanted to work out in rehab on his own. We've heard, some people don't have faith in the Cowboys training staff and things like that with the NFLPA ratings and things like that. And, Diggs, of course, has his own issues and things like that. But where Brian Brodus is putting the blame, or some of the blame on this, is actually on Al Harris. Because he says that Al Harris let him get away with a lot of stuff. And they tried to, on the field, off the field, in what manner. And he just said yes. So the thing that may be true. I don't know if it is or not. But here's the thing that I want to point out. That is very, very important that you don't want to miss. You could look at it and say Jimmy Johnson let a lot of players get away with a lot of shit. When you hear some of the stuff Michael Irvin and crew and things did in the party house and stuff like that, he let them get away with a lot of stuff. But they performed on the field. So let me see if I got this straight. Let me see if I have this straight. While Al Harris was his coach, quote unquote, letting him get away with a lot of stuff, Travon Diggs was one of the best cornerbacks in football, getting more interceptions in a season than any other player in the last 25 years plus. The Dallas Cowboys secondary was the strength of its team, where they took guys that you had never heard of, like Deron Bland, and he ended up leading the league and having the record for pick sixes. You took journeyman safeties and guys that you didn't think that were great ones, like Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson and things like that. That secondary was balling. And now that he's been gone for 2 seasons, the problems with Diggs are because of Al Harris? What? You know what? Let me see if I get this straight. You would rather not have problems with Diggs and have him not perform than have him perform And as last I checked, I didn't hear about any of these problems with Diggs until he wasn't performing. I hate to say this, but here's where I think some of the bidding for the Joneses or the cover-up or the excuse making for things that have happened. Because, see, I've been one of these that have said the Cowboys have made mistakes because they constantly hire failed head coaches as coordinators. You follow me, right? Instead of giving a young upstart who has proven that he's worked in your system. You can look at this right now and say, Brian Schottenheimer may be a better hire than hiring a retread. Because you know him, you've seen he's done a great job as a position coach and coordinator for you, that the natural progression would be hire him and let him go ahead and start his career, as opposed to hiring other guys that were failed, like Mike Nolan, who failed utterly as a head coach in San Francisco, or bringing in a Rod Marnelli or bringing in a Mike Zimmer, instead of giving a young guy an opportunity who was performing with your people. It would have been a natural progression to say Al Harris, a young guy who relates to these players, who gets the most out of guys that you didn't think were great top tier players, to promote him into a position of being a coordinator. I think this is a cover-up for that, or preemptive strike to say, oh, no. The problems were that guy. We were smart not to hire him. Are you kidding me? Bro, when Al Harris was here, it was the best secondary play we've had since the glory days of this team. And you look what Al Harris is doing now elsewhere. We could have had that here. Had we hired him as the natural progression of Dan Quinn on this defense, in the same way Schottenheimer has taken Dak and the offense and taken the pieces that he likes, and he has made it his own and is performing, you could have had Al Harris as a young coordinator doing the same thing. Yeah. That one bothers me. That one bothers me that now, 2 years after the guy is gone, now we look back and say that Diggs' problems are because of Al Harris. I guarantee I just made some enemies with that one. I can guarantee that one. Have a good day, people.